difference. Many, many years ago, Rabbi Yaakov Moshe Mazda gave up preaching the virtues of the Talmud and transformed himself into Jackie Mason, the comedian. Sounds like an old myth that I'm referring to. Eventually, he landed on Broadway after a lot of skepticism on people's part, starring in his own one-man show twice. Those who came to scoff remained to pray when they saw how hilarious he was in his Broadway show. And he won a special Tony Award for at least one of those times. And he's my guest tonight, I'm happy to say, at phenomenal prices, Jackie Mason.
Thank you, thank you.
Nice to see you.
Why not? You're right. For these prices, you'll take anybody.
Right.
I don't blame you.
I like to hear. I like it when you talk about what's going on, as well as I like it when you talk about something as as abstract as Gentiles taking their children to college versus Jews taking their children. But right now we're obsessed with politics. We're drowning in it.
Right. So why bring it up?
I was going to say, only a cad would bring it up now after all that. But I'm not so satiated that I don't want to hear you mention a couple of things. And I'd just like to hear you survey the scene of what's going on and the alleged corruption all over the place. So what's wrong with our politicians that we're so sick of them?
Well, what's wrong with our politicians is obviously that they're all getting paid for nothing.
Is that it?
They're all getting paid for absolutely nothing because they never reflect what people are interested in and what they want. As long as you have a country where a politician stays in power because of big money and has to spend all his time raising big money, because the only way he gets elected is by having enough money for the next campaign, which costs so many astronomical millions that it's impossible to get elected without that much money, then he has to spend all his time catering to the people with the money. So and he doesn't care about the people because the people are never interested enough in politics to even know what he's doing. So he doesn't have to cater to the people. When the people want to raise their voice and they really get excited about an issue, all of a sudden the guy becomes a good congressman. But most people don't know who the hell the congressman is. And if you ask the average person who's your congressman, he could mention the name of his chair, the table, he can mention 50 movie stars, he can mention the name of the pound of sugar, a piece of cake, a cup of coffee. He knows everything in the world except his politician.
You mean if your life depended on finding 20 people quickly who could name the congressman?
They have no idea who their congressman is. They don't know who their governor is. They don't know who anybody is. I read in the paper once that President Johnson, when he was vice president, was only known to 50% of the American people. Only 50% of the people are able to identify the vice president of the United States. Now, if you don't know who your congressman is, your chances are you don't know which way he's voting.
You're not going to ask me who my congressman is, are you? After all,
and you don't care. If you don't know and you don't care and you're so withered by the whole system of politics that you're giving up on it, then he knows he's free to just cater to the people who count. And the people who count are the people who are paying for his next campaign.
I have a
so there's no connection. I know you would love to talk, but this is my question.
All right.
How did you get involved in my acting? You got a whole week with shows. This is my few minutes that I'm supposed to become a hit.
No, you've touched on one of my nightmares, which is having to take a general knowledge test in public. But I have one for you. Don't anyone yell out the answer, audience. Who is Gerald Ford's vice president?
Gerald Ford's vice president? Once it was, let me see.
Isn't that a stumper? Don't yell it. I know some of you... I was with a guy from Brown University who teaches psychology. It took 4 of us 20 minutes to come up with who was Gerald Ford's vice president.
Rockefeller?
Yes. Go to the head of the class. But isn't it interesting that you had to think?
Right.
Because we never thought of him as a vice president because he was, in a sense, a bigger star than Gerald Ford.
Right.
And you can't think of him as a Rockefeller. It was a great disappearing act. He sort of...
Right. Thank God I got it. The chances I'm the only one.
Boy, I couldn't resist, but... Better men than you. Oh, I'm making
better
it worse.
Ones? There's better men than me.
Have flunked that
I'm working for nothing, and I'm the better one. But the truth really is...
do you believe the politicians, for example, Jennifer Flowers, should she play a role in our politics, you think, or not?
I don't see why she shouldn't play a role. The role she should play is whatever role he feels she deserves. If a guy wants to have an advisor, nobody else decides who his advisor should be. When other people are president, you don't elect an advisor. So why shouldn't he have a right to make her as much of an advisor as he pleases? Because ultimately you're not voting for her. You're voting for whatever you supposedly believe on his policies.
Did I say? Are you thinking about Hillary Clinton? I mean,
I'm thinking about Hillary Clinton.
I knew you were. Yeah, yeah.
You're talking about the other yenta.
I'm talking about.
Oh, flowers.
I guess the thrust, so to speak, of the question would have been: did you believe Clinton on the subject of Jennifer Flowers?
I don't believe him for a second that he didn't make love to Flowers. If he didn't make love to her, nobody ever did. I'm positively sure he made love to her because it was on the tape. It's on the tape and anybody could hear it. And it was his voice on the tape. And for him to deny it makes as much sense to me as me denying that I'm sitting here. It's on the tape. She says to him, boy, what a good time we had. He said it wasn't bad. She says, you were a hit. He says, thank God I may showed up. And all of a sudden they asked him, what happened? Nothing. I don't know her. I never heard of her. I don't know where she came from, but it's your voice. It's my voice, but it's not me. But it was you talking. Just because I'm talking doesn't mean I was listening. I don't know. The whole idea of him denying that is so preposterous. People have an image of him as a liar now.
Of course, the question is, does it matter? Would you let a doctor operate on you who had lied?
I don't see why not.
Well, then.
I would like to know the person who ever said, I have the worst disease in the world, and there is one guy who's the best doctor in the world for this particular disease. And if you call him, he's going to save your life. But I'm not going to call him. You know why? I found out he committed adultery.
Right.
Do you ever see a guy say, I'd rather pass away than have an adulteress, save my life?
That's right.
Could you imagine a person say, here's a guy never committed adultery. But he doesn't know how to operate. Good, I'd rather pass away with a moral person than live long from a lowlife.
You don't want to be corrupted by the hands
of a lowlife shouldn't save my life. That's idiotic nonsense. We'd never apply the question of adultery to any other profession or any other business. I can't imagine anybody trying to hire a person for anything on this earth who would wonder first if the guy ever committed adultery. Because if adultery was ever a barometer of your right to hold a job, there was nobody working in this country.
Yeah. Think of the number
80% of the people have committed adulteries in America. The rest of them cheat in Europe.
What if all the adulterers had to leave show business?
Would a guy ever apply that same judgment to himself that he wants to apply to the president, to the possibility of a president? Would a guy ever say that he doesn't deserve a job because he once committed adultery? Or would everybody accept the idea that nobody should hire him because he committed? The same people are accusing him of adultery, the same newspapermen. Why don't they take the test?
Why do they?
Well, let's ask these newspapermen, did you ever commit adultery? And all those newspapermen who are asking him that question should be obligated to quit if they committed adultery before they take his job away from him.
But where would our newspapers come from? We'll be back right after this massage. Talking with the often imitated but never duplicated Jackie Mason.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Let's see, we were on the subject of politics and character and adultery and
I think this whole question of his character and the whole question of whether he's a liar or not, there's no doubt that he's a liar. Everybody knows he's a liar. But the question is, how much of a liar is he, and how relevant should the issue of his lying be, and on what subject do you lie? Okay. If I lie about something that doesn't relate to what you're trying to accomplish, let's assume I'm a big liar, but I'm a great carpenter, and you want me to fix a chair. Do you care if I'm a liar about adultery because I can't? The question is, will I fix the chair or not? What is my track record in fixing chairs? That's what you want to know. My character in other fields that don't relate whatsoever to the job you want accomplished is stupid to make an issue out of it. When Bush lies, there's the big difference. Bush lies about things that relate to your pocketbook, that cost you money. He told the whole country, read my lips, no new taxes. That was a solemn pledge, and it was a direct lie to the American people, and it cost all the American people a fortune of money. If I swear to you I'm not going to ask you for money, then I steal the money out of your pocket. I'm lying about something that's relevant to you, that relates to you, that costs you a fortune. What do you care if I committed adultery with a certain yent at 4 o'clock in the morning? I didn't ask you for money. You didn't pay for the date. I didn't send you the bill for the motel. What is your chazash of business?
What if you...
But if I relate to you, here's a lie. It's the same thing like another lie that he told us about marijuana. He says, I smoked marijuana, but I didn't inhale. Who's the putz that believes he didn't inhale? How stupid could you be to believe he didn't inhale? Would you put a pastrami sandwich in your mouth if you didn't want to swallow it? I never saw a guy walking around with a pastrami sandwich. What are you doing? I'm not swallowing. I mean, there's a limit to how stupid people expect to be. Of course he smoked the marijuana, but why should we care if he did? If a guy smoked marijuana, he took a puff out of a cigarette when he was 18, he's now 45, is it still affecting him? Are you worried? Are you worried when it's time to smoke, to pass a tax bill or something? He's going to walk around and say, oh yeah, bruh, I'm dizzy. Wait, I smoked marijuana when I was 12. I mean, it's stupid.
Yeah, you couldn't use that as a defense for driving badly or anything. It's true. I didn't thought of it quite the way you said.
Even if you do smoke marijuana today, it can't hurt anybody. Cigarettes cause cancer and kill people. The studies made of marijuana is that it hurts you practically not at all compared to the misery that a cigarette could cause, to the sicknesses and diseases and the death and destruction that comes from a cigarette. If anything should be illegal, it should be a cigarette.
But the government doesn't make any money on marijuana.
Liquor kills 100,000 people a year on the highways of America. Nobody ever died from marijuana. You can't kill people in a car for marijuana because if you're on marijuana, you can't find your car.
The government's exaggerated it over the years.
And you'll never know what you're driving anyway. He doesn't know the difference between the tire and the wheel. How would he know? I saw a guy marijuana smoking a tire and drink for a year and a half. I always give up. Nothing came of it.
Well, are people under the impression that all drugs turn you into a fanatical, wild fiend also? Now, Coke will. But other things, mostly you want to lie down or get under the rug or something.
The degree of misery that marijuana has caused, the New York Times had a whole study of it and proved that marijuana is practically a harmless drug compared to the degree of misery that comes from cigarettes.
Sure, but the government makes a lot of money off cigarettes. And
that's exactly it.
Other people.
The government is the most hypocritical thing in the world. This is why they are so hypocritical. As I said to you before, people are not involved and don't care what they're voting for or what they're voting about, and they never get involved enough to care. And then they blame the government for being so corrupt.
You're not.
Do you remember when Wilford, what's his name in Pennsylvania, the new senator who beat Thornburg?
Yes. Oh, here's my test again. Yeah, I know him very well.
He just beat Thornburg. Thornburg was a 50-to-1 favorite. He was 40 points ahead in all the polls. He was the hot man of Pennsylvania. He was once the governor, then the attorney general. He came back a 40-point ahead favorite against a man nobody ever heard of. But this man made an issue about health, about a national health program. And he said that's the most important issue of our time. And he hit the guts of the people of Pennsylvania because they're all concerned about national health and they don't have it and nobody made an issue out of it before. And it was the first time that people got involved. And all of a sudden, Thornburg lost. An impossible situation happened. And now all of a sudden, Bush's main program is national health. And every program of every candidate is national health. Why? Because the people cared.
They saw the evidence there.
They saw the evidence there that you could lose your election. Yeah. And that's why the people stink in this country, not the politicians.
Wait a minute,
every person that says that the politicians are no good stinks himself.
Aren't we the people?
That's right.
We stink.
The people stink. You know why they stink? They don't get involved enough to care about what's happening, and then they blame the politician for not listening.
Oh,
it's your business to be involved in what's happening in this country. If you don't care, don't blame the politician and don't claim it's impossible to do anything about it. You could do something about it if you were concerned. That's how Thornburg was thrown out. That's why all the candidates are talking about national health. If you cared enough about national health before, we would have had national health 20 years ago or 40 years ago. So who's to blame for this? The people. The people in this country are no good. That's why when I go any place, I don't talk to anybody. I only talk to myself. I'm the only person worth dealing with. Because I'm the only person who cares about what's happening.
Do you
Thank
have
God
any
for a guy like me. If not for me, there would be nobody to talk to.
Do you have any hobbies?
This is it.
Well, okay. I'm not going to yell if you don't like it here. Why don't you go back where you came from?
You got to talk up, otherwise you accomplish nothing in this country.
When we come back, I have a bone to pick with you. I don't know why you so blatantly...
I'm too busy to hang around picking.
Why you assumed I'm a Gentile. We'll be back right after this.
They tell you the minutes here.
Do you get upset over the morality poses that some people strike these days? The outrage that'll happen with condoms, for example, distributing condoms in schools. Some people just instantly see it as evil. Others say, I don't like it, but it's a good idea, I'm afraid I have to admit.
Well, I don't think it should be in schools. It should be in apartment houses. Because I could use it more than that. Well, I don't know... I don't know. I'm amazed that in the budget of New York they have money for nothing except condoms. It's the only thing you can get for nothing in this city. And I don't know if you should be distributing it or not, because what purpose is there in distributing it? Do you feel it's good to distribute condoms? Why should you make a suggestion to a person here? Go ahead, start working. Well, if you didn't give it to him, he'd sit in the house and do homework.
Well, that's it.
Who's going to think of homework when you're sitting around with a condom in your head? Is this the way to tell people? I think you should give him a pencil better. Maybe he'll do something.
Well, now, your logic is infallible. There's no way I can come back at it. I
don't think it's like walking over to... If you think it's wrong for kids that age to have sex, why give them condoms? Would you walk over and give them a gun in case you want to shoot somebody? I think it's bad taste.
Oh, bad taste, but not impractical.
Bad taste to give them condoms. Otherwise, I think a better idea. Ship in a girl and then give them a condom. Why? What if you have a condom without a girl? That's more...
Gee, you know, I didn't agree with you till I got here, and now I see it all. I would have thought that was a narrow, bigoted, and frivolous view, but now I see it all. The Pee Wee Herman case is somewhat behind us, but it seemed a lot of people were striking moral
I met him last week. I tried to
that.
shake his hands, but he was busy at the time. But,
oh, that's disgusting of you. I sent him a telegram at the time.
What did you want to ask me about that situation?
I don't remember now because you so startled me with what some people would have seen as a vulgarism on your part.
I wouldn't say it's a vulgarism.
No,
all I said is he was busy. The fact that you see it as vulgar means that you yourself are probably a vulgar person. Because you're thinking of vulgar things. All I know is he was busy. I didn't say why he was busy.
No, I know. You revealed my dirty mind, didn't you?
That's my point.
That's right. I see it all now, as I keep seeing it.
There's no chance. There's no chance. The Gentiles have all the shows.
Come on. In the green room, you made a blatant assumption about me. You said to one guy, "Are you Jewish? Yeah, you Jewish? Yeah," and you didn't even ask me. And
you're a Gentile. I
thought, why am I left out of the question?
Well, because you look to me like a Gentile.
Oh, you can go by that?
I would say that you could go by that. If you go by studies, psychological studies, or genetic studies, or biological studies, nobody will say that you could tell by looking at a person if he's a Jew or a Gentile, because there's no proof that there's an actual structural difference that's identifiable.
Right.
So therefore, people could say scientifically you can't prove it. But how come every time you look at a person, you could almost always tell if he's a Jew or a Gentile? You could almost always tell. A Jew looks busier.
Is that how you go?
He looks like he's sweating. He's about to complain about something. He's about to holler, curse, cry. Somehow he looks like he's busy. He can't hang around too long doing nothing. A Gentile looks like it comes, it goes, it doesn't. I don't remember. I make a living, close enough.
Did you say
Looks like a different mental attitude somehow. People think they're judging the structure of their face. They see a certain different mental attitude. Just like when a person comes from a small town. You could usually tell that he's an out-of-towner compared to a New Yorker. A New Yorker has no time. Leave that putz on you. Hello, I got no time. So long, I'll tell you later. Call a guy out of town. Yeah, nice to see you. Schluff the lip. They look like they have nothing to live for. If they do, they don't care what it is. They don't remember. It's not important.
One of the
New
funniest
Yorkers
things
are always busy. Why do you think every New Yorker is looking for his answering machine? Every 10 seconds, who called? They're not working. They must know who called. Every guy without a job. Whoops, I got to call my service. Nobody called? Thank God. He's happy.
You know, one of the funniest things you ever said was that Jews are not scary. I believe your wording was something like, you never saw three blacks walking down the street and saying, "Here comes a Jew, let's cross over."
Right.
Do you remember saying that in your Broadway
show? Watch
show?
Out, there's a Jew over there. That was in my first show.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that brought down the house.
You ever see anybody afraid to walk into a Jewish neighborhood because he might get killed by an accountant? That's the way I felt.
Well, I was killed by an accountant in other ways once. You know, I think I know what you mean. Do you feel you're a star yet? You've admitted to an obsession with stardom years ago.
I always had an obsession with stardom. I always was desperate about becoming a star. I suffered and struggled all my life towards the idea of trying to prove that somehow I deserved to be a star.
And who meant star to you? Bob Hope?
Dick Cavett meant the star to me.
Oh, well, see, there's your problem.
You want me to tell you you want me to tell you the truth? I mean this honestly. I'm not trying to be solicitous because I can't make a living from him.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is I always looked at you as one of my favorite stars, because not only did you represent to me the kind of a person who made it big, because I saw you on television, on major stations, major shows for the last 20, 25 years, but also you represented the kind of a guy to me that I wanted to emulate. I wanted to become the kind of a star who doesn't have to compromise himself to enjoy his stardom, who could express what he feels, what he thinks, what he believes. And I always saw you do that.
But you do all those things too, so
now I have a chance to do it. That's how I feel I made it. on my way up, I had to cater to people in small towns. I played every cockamamie little town in America. Not like I'm putting down the small towns, but let's be honest about it. It was a very hard life for me. It was great for them, the people who lived there. For me, it was a very tough, rough, miserable kind of experience. Well, going checking into cockamamie little motels, being on the road in every honky-tonk place, being called the Jew bastard 1,000 times. 1,000 times I was called the Jew bastard. This is only by the Jews. Who knows what the Gentiles call?
A friend of mine remembers a bizarre incident. I'm racing with the clock here. Years ago, you're walking into a restaurant in New York. I hope I have the right fighter. Jake LaMotta arose and said, "You little Jew bastard." And everyone froze. Everyone was embarrassed. Whether he was drunk, crazy, what? He said, "We never found out." He repeated it. You left. The people in the restaurant looked around. Do you recall this?
Jake LaMotta has always said that to me, but Jake LaMotta...
I figured maybe you're old buddies. That's got to be the explanation.
Never meant anything by it.
Oh, okay.
He's a lovable, wonderful guy. That's the way he kids me all the time. As a matter of fact, I wrote a boxing routine that I used to do all my life, and I gave it to him as a present, and he's been doing my boxing routine now for at least 15 years.
You just cleared up something for a friend of mine.
No, he's a lovable character. But, you know, when people love each other, they could say anything and you accept it.
Right.
People count the words. It's not the words. It's
you
the
could
spirit.
call him a fancy Schwartz over the mustache, and he wouldn't get upset.
It depends how you mean it. It doesn't depend that. Like I just said, everybody in the world stinks. I didn't see anybody get offended because they could sense that this is some way of expressing myself. It's a kind of a joke meant to deliver a message that had much more profound significance than calling people stupid. I'm calling them stupid because I'm trying to help them, and this is my way of expressing myself, and they feel it.
So there's a lot of the...
They know it doesn't come from hate or venom or hostility. It comes from an exaggerated way of trying to make a point. And sometimes when you come over to your best friend, you say, "Hello, you son of a bitch."
Yeah.
If you read in the paper, a guy called the guy a son of a bitch, he figures he has to hire a lawyer to get even.
Yeah, we got the proof right here. Someone heard
Right.
him.
But if you see the way the guy said it and who he said it to, you know it's a joke. It's a joke. It's in the spirit. That
I hate to interrupt you, old bastard, but we're out of time. See you next time. So long.